Enosh was the son of Seth and the grandson of Adam and Eve. He was born when Seth was 105 years old. The Bible tells us that Enosh was the first person to call on the name of the Lord. Enosh grew up in a world that was very different from the world that his grandparents, Adam and Eve, had known. Adam and Eve had lived in the Garden of Eden, a perfect place where there was no sin or death. But after they disobeyed God and ate the forbidden fruit, they were banished from the garden and sent to live in the fallen world. The fallen world was a much harsher place than the Garden of Eden. There was sin and death everywhere. But even in this harsh world, God was still present. He was still loving and caring for his people. Enosh was aware of God's presence in the world. He had heard the stories from his father and grandfather about how God had created the world and how he had loved and cared for Adam and Eve. Enosh also knew that God had promised to send a Savior to redeem humanity from sin. Enosh wanted to have a relationship with God. He wanted to know Him and to love Him, so he began to call on the name of the Lord. He prayed to God and he worshipped Him. Enosh's decision to call on the name of the Lord was a bold move. At the time, most people were still worshipping idols. They were bowing down to statues and images of false gods. But Enosh knew that there was only one true God, and he was determined to worship Him alone. Enosh's decision to call on the name of the Lord had a ripple effect. It inspired other people to do the same. Soon, there was a small group of people who were worshiping God together. This group of people was the beginning of the church. Enosh lived to be 905 years old. He was a faithful follower of God, and he played an important role in the early development of the church. He was the first person to publicly acknowledge God and to worship Him. He was also the first person to teach others about God and to lead them to Him. Enosh's story is a reminder that it is possible to have a relationship with God, even if most people around us are not following Him. It is also a reminder that God is always looking for people who are willing to worship Him and to follow Him.